Hi, everyone. Welcome to session 3 with the Getting Started with Teams Phone. Today, we have a very exciting agenda for you to help you get started with your very own early staged Teams Phone pilot, or maybe even a Teams Phone deployment. Excited to get underway with our content today. We are on the third and final session of our Teams Phone track, as you can see from our agenda. So we are super glad to have you with us. Like I said, we've got lots of great content for you today, a couple of wonderful speakers who are going to guide us through some great content and a really deep dive demo that I've talked about all week long, so I'm excited to get that underway. Next week, we will dive into devices, so if you are curious about that topic at all, if that is your jam, we would love to have you join us for those topics as well. So please take note of those dates. It's going to start at 8 a.m. Pacific, so please translate for your own local time, and we'd love to have you join us for those sessions. I do just very briefly want to talk about the superheroes community. I want to give you a quick update. We did try to make some changes last night to ameliorate, is that a word? The situation. Some of you may have seen some changes come across, some little notifications. So hopefully that helped make the situation a little bit better. If you continue to have issues accessing the site, we want to know about it. I'd like to invite you, if you are having trouble accessing that site, to please just email me directly and share with me the error message that you are receiving, and we will try to fix the issue based on the error message that we see you receiving and see what's going on for you. If this is your first time seeing this slide, you will want to start with the first step you see there and just complete the consent form and then go through the remaining steps you see on the slide. This is where you will be able to access all of the files that we share during these sessions. You actually can go out to the Files tab once you access the superheroes community, and the decks will be stored in this eensy-weensy folder called the April Wave. That's where you'll access all of the decks that we are sharing. And then if you're interested in rewatching any of the recordings that we are doing during this wave here, you'll actually access that through it's a separate link. It's the Superheroes YouTube channel. And what I did yesterday is I just made a quick adjustment to this link here and pointed it directly to the Converged Communications playlist. So this will take you right out to the playlist where you'll find the recordings that we've already done and then the remainder of the recordings that we'll make through the rest of this wave. So please go out and check that out if you would like to go back and rewatch any of the sessions that we've done, or when we post the remaining sessions, they'll be out there directly. So again, just to reiterate, if you have tried to access this Yammer community previously and you've had trouble and you are getting some kind of error message thrown at you, please just send me an image of the error message and we will try to resolve that for you. So you can find my email information right here, and I invite you to send that my way and we'll do our level best to fix that issue. Okay. As usual, we're just going to keep you muted for the bulk of the session just to reduce the noise in the background, but we will have an open Q&A towards the end of the session. In the meanwhile, if you have questions today, just pop those in the chat and our SMEs will do their best to answer those questions for you as we go along. Like I mentioned, we will do live Q&A at the end. You'll have the opportunity to unmute yourself, raise your virtual hand, and we will take your questions in the order that they are received. Oakley dokley, here we go. We've got for you today 2 wonderful speakers. Rito Lopez is with us. He's a senior cloud solution architect here at Microsoft. And we also have Ash Maccabee, who is part of our fast track team. And they are going to talk to us about all things getting started with Teams Phone. So Rito and Ash, please take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody. Glad to be here. Let me go ahead and take control real quick. All right. All right, well, thanks everybody for having me. Hope we'll get through this good. Hope everybody has a great day. In the previous sessions, we overviewed Teams phone system. We talked about the different ways to connect PSTN networks. And then we reviewed different devices available that you can use inside Teams. Next, we covered user persona and how we could use them to align the right product features with the appropriate group of users. And in the last session, we covered some advanced calling scenarios like emergency calling, call queue and auto attendant, and SIP gateway. And today we're going to go over, take all of these learnings and we'll use them to put together a plan about how we can start rolling out Teams phones to our users. At this point, we will cover a couple of areas today. First, we will talk about who needs to be part of the Teams phone migration project. This will help ensure all the right parties are available to help. And then going to review a sample Teams migration plan and discuss some of the common steps we see in those plans. Next, we will discuss adoption and change management, making sure we have the right communications and training in place to ensure success. And after that, we'll review what a Teams pilot might look like to help validate your support processes, addressing business requirements and obtaining the right feedback so that you know you're ready to move forward with the full-scale rollout. And then finally, my colleague Toby will give a demo of the settings up call queue and auto attendant. That's going to be really good. And let's look at what a project plan might look like for your organization. And first, we want to assemble the right teams and include all the right stakeholders. We'll go through who those people might be in subsequent slides. And second, create a regular cadence with that team, agree on all the objectives and timelines with the project team. And then finally, take a look at some of our sample timelines and project plans, and you can use those as a basis to build out what fits for your organization. But first, let's do a poll. What stage are you in your Teams phone deployment? All right, let's see. Got them coming in now. Got a lot in learning right now so far. Okay. So looks like we got a lot in learning, some in design, some in pilot. Okay, good. All right. I think we're about done with that poll. Thank you for that. All right, so let's look at what an example project team might look like. First and foremost, who is your executive sponsor? That's the person that will help prioritize amongst other team in the organization. That person will be someone you'll want to go to when you run into roadblocks and have trouble gaining priority with other teams. And then we have the project manager. That will be the person that drives the product end to end and keeps stakeholders up to speed. In today's tight supply chain environment, you want to make sure that you have the procurement leads and who can help with purchasing MTRs, phones, headsets, and ensure that you'll be available to meet those timelines. You'll need the 365 admins, of course, for licensing, resource accounts, common area phones. If you're going to do group-based licensing, they can help with setting up groups that can assign licenses to both users and devices. For devices, you might want to consider using a naming standard for device accounts so that they automatically assign the right licensing using dynamic groups, and to ensure that the teams supporting, teams calling have the right to do their jobs. The 365 admin can help with delegation of administration, like teams of admins, device admins, help desk roles, and reporting functions. And like licensing, admin groups can be assigned to the groups to help control and audit who has what rights. Then you have your Teams UC team. That group will help manage devices, control voice settings like dial plans, emergency calling, calling policies, caller ID configuration, and managing the telephone number assignment. The telephony or network team, ones who will help the SBC setup for most cases, firewall rules to support SBC and calling, VPN configuration if needed, and to support the team in any network requirements as well. Such as like congestion for your network, like QoS, is also important. It'd be good to make sure you have your local and cloud-based proxies to make sure they are configured and support ways to help Teams communication is not blocked. An Intune lead, so you'll need an Intune manage on your network. You need to make sure that team is available to help ensure the team's devices receive the right enrollment and compliance policies. And you'll need a legal team to make sure that you're following the right regulations regarding things like 911, E911, and rolling that out. Especially if you're rolling it out to different countries, making sure to ensure that the VoIP regulations in those countries are followed correctly. And let's go ahead and do another poll. What phone migration tasks do you see being a challenge? Getting some responses coming in now. Inter-office dialing. Interesting. I see 10 responses, but I'm only seeing 2. Anybody else having that trouble? Anyway, we can move on from there. We'll come back to that. All right. Next slide. Let's go. In our sample transition plan, we are breaking tasks down into discovery, planning, and execution phases. In the discovery phase, we will take a look at our current PSTN environment. In previous sessions, we talked about the persona definition. That is mapping roles in the organization to different personas. And those personas help play into your training and adoption materials. Different personas might also make different devices and could influence the type of devices you use for those personas. Think of road warriors using Bluetooth headsets, executives or admin assistants using physical phones instead of headsets as an example. And we'll map these personas and business requirements to Teams features and functionality, making sure that we cover all the requirements in our Teams phone design. In the planning phase, PSTN connectivity, if you're using DR, direct routing, you might need to work with telecom and security teams to ensure the connectivity between the SBC and Teams service is working properly. And once that is set up, making test calls and test specific scenarios like call forwarding, call queue, and auto attendant is very important. Teams has several ways to control functions through policies, calling policies, for example, that you can allow recordings, caller ID policies if you need to mask user's number behind a main number, for example, or support desk, also emergency policies. Who can be notified in case of emergency, like you could place that call that will be sent to a security desk as well as 911. And then device design, wired or wireless headsets and how those will be handed out after training, before training. Will you be using those phones on the desks as well? And you will coordinate with AD and security and Intune compliance. It is a good idea to make sure that these devices are updated before putting them on the person's desk to make sure they're updated to the latest firmware. And then in the executive phase, infrastructure implementation, the UC team will likely need to help implement design, created discussions, previously scaled transition, and build a playbook with repeatable steps such as project task, user communications, and training. And you want to start with fewer sites at a time and then scale from that. If you are porting numbers, build those times into the playbook and know that different countries and sometimes carriers have different timelines and porting requirements. And then finally, we recommend a pilot as a good starting point. A pilot is useful to confirm scale on the on-prem telephony infrastructure. Support procedures can scale and the opportunity to build upon those FAQs or common support scenarios that users might see. And let's look at adoption and change management. So for adoption and change management strategies, doing the upfront work to build effective communication plans will go a long way toward helping making sure the rollout goes smoothly. Giving users ample time and notice of changes, for example, intro communication via email, like 7 days out, 1 day out post-migration email, surveys, etc. Use the persona definition to drive how you communicate changes, leverage Customer Toolkit, which you will see on the next slide, as a basis for building training. And some customers will leverage SharePoint as a place to store user communication, training, and maybe even videos. Others might have like a one-pager that they'll stick on the desk or in the meeting rooms so that people can look at that and see how to use those devices. And consider offering types of learning material because people learn different ways, such as short videos, for example, reference guides on your local intranet to supplement virtual or in-person training sessions. And don't get burned by those who might also need white glove treatment, especially like with your admin assistants or things that may need some extra treatment and helping them out. Another tip is to determine who's responsible for end user communication. Does someone have to approve that communication before you give out that time, or does it need to go out right away? Making sure you have that approval before you do send that out. And then lastly, how will training be grouped? Will training happen in groups as users are migrated? How will that communication / training be cadenced around the project team? Will there be multiple classes per week before cutover, or just one class, etc.? Will you hand out devices like headsets after completing training of the day? Some things to think about. All right, for the Teams adoption kit, it's designed for customers to train their internal teams on how to use Teams Phone. Inside this downloadable kit, the end user communication, guidance videos, and personas. Don't forget about the great landing page we have on support.microsoft.com as well. It has examples and instructions on how-to videos, forwarding, transfer, voicemail, etc. I've seen customers use this as a basis to build their own end user instructions. Or you could simply link to these instructions. A link to this page will be provided at the end here. Now that we've talked about design planning and user adoption, let's jump into the deployment phase. And we'll be specifically focused on the pilot as well. When identifying a pilot group, think about starting with your IT pilot and then followed by any IT-friendly business groups. The key being identifying groups that you think will have a good participation from and provide accurate feedback. As I mentioned before, this is a good opportunity to test your change management and user comms, getting feedback when instructions or messaging may not be clear. We also want to make sure that we are testing for all different scenarios we'll be supporting. On the next page, example testing scripts can be useful to get feedback and validate those who are ready to move forward to scale rollouts. Use an issue tracker to keep any issues discovered during the pilot, and then at the end, based on issues, make a go or no-go decision on whether to move forward with the scaled rollouts. And let's look at some sample user acceptance testing scripts. We have developed some sample testing scripts in Microsoft Forms that you can quickly send to your pilot groups to validate that your implementation aligns with your design. The great thing is you can use the link below to access and then save these forms in your tenant. From there, you can edit these to suit your needs. And then here we're collecting feedback on Teams desktop and mobile clients. You can add, remove questions and use these as a tool to garner feedbacks and lessons so that you're in a position to successfully begin your full-scale rollouts. When you begin your scaled rollouts, are you going to migrate by site, business unit, or provider? Remember that sometimes providers don't like more than one port happening at any given time per site. So if you are moving users by business unit, you might want to wait until the port is completely finished before you move on to the next group at the same site. And pick a good day and time for porting. For instance, Friday afternoons might not be a good time because they're maybe not covered for the losing carry as it approaches the weekend. So just keep that in mind. Continue to repeat the playbook you have created for migrating users using the templated communications, training programs, and enablement steps. Keep a regular cadence with your support teams during migration to keep an eye to the ground so you're aware of issues who frequently come up while you're moving into these stages. continue to repeat these migrations playbook until your targeted users are enabled for Teams Phone. And we will do another poll here. Are you already using call queues and auto attendants in your organization? Very good. Looks like we have a lot in production already. Good stuff. Right. And now I will hand it over to Rito, who will do the demo.
Thank you very much, Ash. Great
Not a
session,
problem, sir.
by the way. Okay, I'll start sharing my screen just to have an overview of what we're going to accomplish in the next minutes. And this is that we're going to build an auto attendant and a call queue. That is, that we will taking care of an incoming call coming from the PSTN to the appropriate phone number assigned to the auto attendant. We're going to play a welcome message, and depending on the options given, maybe by selecting the one option, will be again forwarded to a call queue and then handing it over to one of the available agents, in this case, our beloved Megan Bowen. So let's kick it off and find out how we're going to achieve this. The first thing that we will be needing is, of course, to check that Megan Bowen is indeed capable of receiving calls, both receiving and making calls. Therefore, we're going to check if that user has indeed the appropriate licenses for that. Therefore, we go into our M365 Admin Center. We navigate to our active users, select Megan Bowen now as an example, and just check if the appropriate licenses are assigned to her, which I hope so. Of course, basically, we will be needing an E3 or an E5 license, anything indeed which already includes at least the service plan for Microsoft Teams, which is the product we're using for that. And of course, on top of that, one of the options that we have also for calling, like this, for example, a domestic and international calling plan. So Megan is looking good. She's capable of getting ready to become a phone number. Therefore, we first need, of course, to also request a phone number for her. But prior to that, we will be always needing to have an emergency location first. That's mandatory, at least for US-based phones. And let's just allow me to also check another thing, which we'll be using afterwards for our call queues, which is to find out if we have also the appropriate licenses for our resource accounts. We check this by going to the billing and your products that we have already achieved. And together, of course, with the plans for calling, we are just checking that we do have available and remaining phone resource accounts. In this case, of course, a trial. In your case, maybe another one. So let's go back. And as I said, let's try to create an emergency location. Therefore, we need to jump into the Teams Admin Center, which I have in my second tab. And this is done under Locations, Emergency Addresses, is where we're going to create a new address. Therefore, we click on Add. We select the country, being that United States. We're going to import one of the addresses I put for myself. This one here. And Teams will be taking care of finding that exact physical address location for that. Of course, we will be also needing a name for that location. So let me just paste it in there. It will be Cincinnati, Ohio. And this is the physical address, which Bing Maps has located for us. We're good to go. And we'll just click on Save. Again, mandatory to have an emergency address to then assign our phone numbers to. So next step is, of course, acquiring that phone number. We go to the voice section of the Teams Admin Center. We click on phone numbers, and we're going to request a new one just by clicking on that. We're going to maybe just call it at request number 2, very easy. Let me just paste the same as a description. And let's now select a country, that the United States once again. And in this case, since we are requesting a phone number for a regular user, the type will be a user subscriber. You see, we have we have a couple of other types that could be the next one that we're going to request afterwards, one for a call queue, for an auto attendant. We also have call queues of the modalities in the toll-free, a conference bridge, or a dedicated conference bridge also in the toll-free version out of it. In this case, once again, for Megan, we're going to select a user subscriber type for the phone number requesting. We're going to leave Microsoft as the operator because we're going to use the calling plans directly from Microsoft, and we'll just select one of the available quantities that we have in there. For new numbers, we'll be needing to provide a name, a city name for the location. So let's just recall what we just created in Cincinnati, which is our Contoso, and this was, whoops, I need to click on select. And now Teams is going to have a look at the available area codes, only one in there, 513. And by clicking on next, it will be trying to locate or at least reserve any of the available numbers that we have. In this case, we will be having that number, which is going to write it down somewhere so that we know this is going to be the number to be used. But keep in mind, you need to place the order. And this is the clock ticking in here. You have 10 minutes to indeed proceed with placing the order. We have just reserved the number, but we did not proceed with that. We're going to click on it so that we indeed get this number reserved for us. And we are now going to assign it to our end user. Once this is done, we need to go once again to the phone numbers available. We're going to select this one, and I know about it because it's the only one which is not yet assigned. That's how I know this is a valid number to be used. Click on edit, and then we're going to assign it to Megan. You won't be seeing any user here after the search if the user is indeed not licensed with a valid phone number license. In this case, we have a calling plan, so Megan Bowen is a good candidate to have a phone number assigned. So don't try to look for other users, you won't be finding them. And we're just checking and confirming that the emergency location is the correct one that we had before. This case, I just be omitting sending the phone number to the user, but this is only for demo purposes, right? You would, of course, also willing to inform your users of what their new numbers is going to come. Clicking on apply, and please think also about associating the number and the times we need for that. You could also decide what kind of profile that user will be doing. You have different options. The effect here, this won't be important for our demo purposes. So let's leave it like it is. And in this way, we just confirm that Megan at least has a valid phone number with which to generate or receive calls. What we're needing to do now is the other second step. As again before, we just configured the agent Megan Bowen to have a phone number. Let's go now and create a call queue and the auto attendant we're going to nest it to, and then select Megan as an available agent for that. Therefore, we once again jump into the voice section, and then we scroll down to the resource accounts, because we will be needing a resource account which is going to work with the creating call queue. So we go in there, we click a new one. Let's give a very, very original name, like for example, Customer Hub Call Queue 2. And maybe by this one call Customer Hub Call Queue number 2. And by selecting the account type, we said we're going to create now a call queue. So let's select the call queue type for that resource account. Let's click on save. And once we have created a new identity, we will be also needing to license it. once again, to be able to have a phone number, a valid phone number, we need to have the appropriate licenses. So let's go back to the M365. Let's search in here for that new call queue identity that we just created. I am their product, sorry. I need to jump off to active users, of course. Try to filter out, and this is the new one created, which once again is unlicensed, and we will be needing to assign one of the also confirmed available licenses, being in that case, not an international or domestic calling plan, but a Teams Phone resource account. I'm going to save the changes. And then we're going to go through the same process. We need a phone number to get assigned to this resource account, but we must request it first. So we jump back to the Teams Admin Center, to the tag. We go under voice and phone numbers and start the process of acquiring a new phone number. In this case, it will be number 2. Oh, it's already number 2 there. Let's keep also the same description. Let's select our country, United States, and select as number type. In this case, not a user type, but in this case, a call queue. Operator will be keeping Microsoft, once again, only one, and selecting the same location that we wanted before, which is Cincinnati, Contoso, Lake Forest Drive. Area code 513, and by clicking on next, it will now reserve a phone number, an available phone number for us. Here we go, one ending with 8071. We're going to place the order inside of the next 10 minutes. Don't forget about it. And finish. Once again, we will be having an available phone number, which we are now going to assign to the recently created resource account. So we go to edit and assign it to the resource account. Oh, yes, we'll be needing to do that under resource accounts. We cannot do that from the phone numbers directly. We need to go to the resource accounts, and the recently created, we need here to assign it. Phone number type, it will be also a calling plan, and the same phone number 8071. Here we go. We need to save the changes before. And what we can do is we can assign it also from here to the customer hub called Q2, which we are not finding. Okay, I thought it was correctly provisioned. Then we go check back. Just click on refresh. Okay, so the resource numbers in there. Okay, let's go first, of course, and create a call queue. Therefore, we also go to the voice section. We scroll down to the call queues. And we'll be needing, of course, to create the call queue first before assigning it. So we're just selecting the resource account we recently created. This should be working now, THCQ. Okay. Perhaps that should be the name. Okay, let's work with the complete name. That will be it. We confirm the number is the correct one and click on add. So this will be the number that we're going to dial from to, or at least to land on the call queue. We can also assign this number to be also a calling ID. This will grant the agents behind the call queue to call outbound with that phone number of the call queue instead of their own one. So if Megan has the need to call outwards, but not directly displaying their her phone number, we can decide to have here a calling ID and just select the one from the very same call queue. Customer hub, the number 2. This is the way that you can assign different IDs to have the call queue get identified with for agents calling outwards. We select the language. We're going to present the menu and the options in. This will be, of course, English. Gonna type in. Okay, let's use English United States and click on next. Now we're presenting with the options for greetings and music. So let's go ahead. I, of course, did a call queue name. I always forget about it, and this is the most important thing. Good that it doesn't allow me to go further. Click on next. So options that we have, either not to play absolutely any greeting. We can play an audio file that we can also upload. Please keep in mind also the limitations and the format that we need, MP3, WAV file, WMA, and of course, lower than 5 MB in size. Or we can just type in a message. It will then convert it text to speech. This time, since we are nesting this call queue after an auto attendant, we won't be presenting a greeting, but we can also maybe decide if we want to also put music on hold, being that the default music that Microsoft offers, or also giving you the option to upload an own one if you don't like the ones we took. Okay, let's keep it that way. Let's click on next. And then let's decide who's going to take care of the calls directed to that call queue. We can either choose an existing team and a channel inside of it. That would mean that any member of that channel directly becomes an agent for that call queue, or we can just select single user or groups inside of it. For our demo, we're going to use Megan, as we said before, to be the one and only agent behind that call queue. Let's add her. And now also let's decide about the conference mode. Conference mode, if we activate it, that will reduce the amount of time that it takes for a caller to be connected to an agent after the agent accepts the call. Only keep in mind also that other historic limitation that if the agents are using Skype for Business and we're using conference mode, they won't receive the calls. So use it if you're indeed using Teams only agents behind the calls. Agent selection, once again, 4 different types of mechanism to decide who's going to be called, or at least to have the option to get the calls. Attendant routing, this will ring absolutely every agent at the same time. So the first picking it up or the quickest will get the call. Serial routing will go from the first to the last one, deciding on what we decided to be the attendant group from. Would be a group of users or a Teams channel. They will go one after the other ringing if, of course, one of them did not take the call. Round robin, this will take care that every agent gets the same amount of calls so that we can balance somehow the call load for them. Or we just select the longest idle. The agent who has been longest idle, this is the next candidate for an incoming call. We can also activate, of course, the present-based routing. Only agents which are available are candidates to also receive the call, depending on the routing method. If we switch it off, then we won't be taking care about it at all. We can also give agents the opportunity to opt in or opt out of those calls, so that maybe Megan is taking part in 3 different call queues, but she can select which one to opt out from. So another control mechanism that Microsoft offers for our agents. And of course, we can also decide how long it's going to be the alert time, how long it's going to ring for the single agents, for every agent. After this 30 seconds, which is the default value, it will then ring to the next one. We can also decide how many calls are we going to allow in the call queue. Default is 50, and think about the limitation on the 200. And of course, we can also decide what to do when that limit is reached. We can either directly disconnect the call, or we can continue and redirect it to maybe another person, another auto attendant, another call queue. This is the way that we can nest absolutely every other option that we need to implement. And of course, also what about the timeout? Not about the limit on calls that we can on the call queue active, but also what happens after the wait time is over. Maximum would be 45 minutes. I don't want to be the one waiting 45 minutes for a call to be taken, but anyway, you can decide how long the wait time will be and what to do after it's over. Also disconnect, or once again, choose where to redirect it to. This is brand new. This is also a very cool feature. We can now, as admins, select specific users to decide if they are also going to be able to change the greetings for those call queues. As of now, only Teams administrators, like we are now in the demo, could decide which greetings should be played for the call queue. Now we have the opportunity to select one of the corresponding users. I don't know, for example, Adele. Adele could be, for me, one of the selected users to be an authorized user to change those greetings if needed. So they don't need to contact administrators and they could do it by themselves. This is brand new and very cool feature. And with that, we're finished our setup of the call queue. Going back to our presentation, we have just set up the agent and the call queue. We now need the overlaying level, which will be the auto attendant, which is our first barrier when the call comes in. So let's go ahead and do exactly the same thing. We will be needing, first of all, a new resource account. Therefore, we once again click it back here, resource account, we click on add, and we'll just naming this one. I won't be forgetting this time the name. This will be the Customer Hub Auto Attendant number 2. Sorry, this is not, I clicked myself out. I wanted to click here, resource accounts. Click on add, display name, and then decide that this is going to be Customer Hub Auto Attendant number 2 as the username, and as account type, this time not a call queue, but an auto attendant. Click on save. And then now we need to acquire a phone number and assign it to our auto attendant. We click on phone numbers. We click on a new order. And by that, select the country, United States. And as a number type, this will be an auto attendant. Microsoft as the operator, also only one number we're going to request this time. And we're going to select Cincinnati again as our location for our emergency addresses. Area code, we keep the same, the only one existing. We click on next. And after we get one phone number reserved, we're going to place the order before time expires. Okay, we can now finish. And then we can now go to the phone number, which should be the only one unassigned, this one here. And we're going to assign it to our recently new resource account created. So of course, once again, I always say that I guess I'm doing always the old way. We'll be needing to take the Customer Hub Auto Attendant. We're going to assign it I'm lost. Source account. Source account. I'm at the correct size. Why am I not able to assign it? What's going wrong here? Assign. Now we forgot, of course, to assign the license first. Good that we're doing the live demo and we're falling into the same troubles that normally users and admins fall into. So we need here to do a customer hub auto attendant search. And this is our proof that we need to license it first before we can assign a phone number. Here we go. We will again select not a regular license, but a phone resource account license, which, by the way, you will be getting 25 of them out of the box without needing to pay for that, and one additional for the next 10 users you provision into the tenant. So 25 plus one every extra 10 users. Okay, that should be working now. Let's go ahead. Let's try to sign it. Now we're capable of selecting a calling plan and a phone number, which is one of the remaining ones. Save. And now that we have a resource account with an associated phone number, we go ahead and create and configure the new auto attendant. So we go back to auto attendants. We should be only one. Having only one, we create a new second one. And now we're giving the opportunity to select if we are going to have an operator as optional. If you remember once again from my presentation, we will be indeed having an operator which will be accessible through the option number 0. So let's go ahead and select yes. And this will be another person in my organization. In this case, that could be, of course, also maybe Adele Vance. We're selecting the time zone. I think for most of us will be this one here. The language, once again, we can keep it in English, which is okay. And we're going to activate and enable the voice inputs. That would mean the callers would not just need to maybe press the buttons, they can also speak their options out. So we're going to enable it, and then we're going to configure the different options in the upcoming steps. Once again, greetings. This time I will be indeed playing a greeting message because this is the first level that we're going to have. So let's just be once again very original and say, hey, welcome to Customer Hub Auto Attendant. And what to do afterwards with the call routings, we're going to present a menu with different options. With this switch, we can also force our users to listen to absolutely every option that we have in there, something we normally hate when we're end users, but anyway, we can force to do that. I just keep it switched to off if we already know our option will be number 1. We can also decide to play an audio file, which we should be able to read, or we can also add a greeting message. This time I will be also inserting a text, which will be then converted to speech. So let's keep it that way. And then we're going now, and I don't know why the menu has now disappeared. Let me go to the next and go back. I don't know when we'll see no available data in here. What's going on? Back. Okay, once again, the demo gods are not with me today. I should be presenting it here with the options to select what would happen with the 0 and 1. Let me do a dirty check here. Let's try to call off the voice inputs. Oh, not working. Not working. Okay, I'm going to start over. This shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't be happening at all. So let's go ahead and try to recreate the auto attendant. voice inputs, and let's see if that's working now with a new attempt. Going to add a greeting message. We're going to play the menu options. The greeting message. Once again, I don't know why I'm missing the options. Maybe it's because of this. Okay, I'm having issues with my resolution, but I hope this is clear for all of us what's happening. Okay. I'm trying to show you the different options in here, but anyway, this will be the voice command, will be a simple operator. When switching band here, it will be redirected to the operator that we choose before, and advance is being directly selected because we did that in the previous step. By option number 1, we wanted to contact sales, for example, and we wanted to redirect this call to a voice application, in this case, our call queue. So customer hub, call queue, also not finding it. Okay. Customer hard call queue. What's wrong today? Here, number 2. And this is our way to decide that these two options will be the ones needing here. Okay. So let's go ahead. Click on next. I will be just clicking on continue because I'm having troubles with the resolution and I won't be taking that much time with that. We can also define our business hours. So what happens if we are calling outside of business hours? We can decide it in here for every day, a specific time frame, but you can also add your own ones. You can also decide what happens if calling after hours, once again, to play a greeting or just to redirect that call or to let it die and just disconnect on it. We'll just leave it as it is. And by clicking on next, we can also define our holiday call settings. You can create new ones to also define in what time frames and what dates we're on holiday, and maybe also play an extra audio file, an extra message out of it. The dial scope, this is dealing with the fact that if we are going to allow to, when dialing, trying to search for a specific people, we can define if there is absolutely no limitation into that. We can include all our online users, or we can only limit it to a specific custom user group. We can also decide, of course, depending on the previous option, to also exclude in the same way, either not excluding absolutely anyone or excluding specific groups from that search. And resource accounts, of course, we need to assign it to the resource accounts we had. This will be the auto attendant. Customer hub, auto attendant number 2. Click on add. And by clicking on next, we can once again decide if we're going to have authorized users, which we're capable to change this auto attendant greetings. Once again, this will be Adele, just in case. Adele Vance. Click on that. And I think I just made a mistake before. Is it possible that I chose the wrong option in here? Oh, that's correct. Equal to number 1. So what's missing in here? Authorized users. I already did that. I'm not able to click on submit. Next. Greeting, the menu options, the 2 operators. Research, next. Okay, I don't know why, but now I'm able to submit it. I don't know what was still missing, but now we're done. Sorry, but once again, the demo cards were not with me. But with that, I conclude the demo of having configured an auto attendant that, depending on the option selected, will be then redirected to a call queue, and then the call queue will be redirecting the call to one of the available agents, in our case, Megan Bowen. So thank you for that, and I will be passing over to you once again, Ash.
Great, thanks, Rito. Very well done. Even with all those extra things you didn't plan for, very well done.
Absolutely, that was not in the plan, to show you what could go wrong and how to fix it. But anyway,
Absolutely.
I think I did it.
Okay, and Sarah, I think you'll take over at this point, right? I believe.
You bet. I'm just going to get the
Okay.
deck back up here.
Not a problem.
Okay, hold on. Might hear music for one hot second. Let me just get to the red slide. There it is. Okay. Great. Ash, do you want to talk to this slide? These are just the resources. I know you addressed some of these as a part of your presentation. Do you want to just talk through this?
Yeah, we can go over that.
Okay.
These are some of the resources. Just think about, you could take advantage of some of these. You can click on the screen right now to access them, or we could share this deck in the community later, so you'll have this in your hands when you need them. Just want to take a moment and pass this over to my good friend and colleague, Martin, who is our relationship manager for Fast Track. We'll spend a few minutes talking about a great benefit that you can all take advantage of when it comes to supporting your team's phone deployment.
Actually, today we have, Morgan filling
Morgan.
in for Martin today.
Yes.
Yeah, Morgan's
All
here.
right.
Hey, Morgan.
Thank you, Morgan.
Hey everyone, and I know that to my friends, we have had the conversation. You've heard about Fast Track a lot, and you're probably thinking now tomato. But I want to reiterate just a phenomenal resource that is provided to you all at no additional cost. To get engaged with technical resources like you've seen across all the days of these sessions. Here is the link or form to fill out to get resources, and you can also, it should be clickable there, or it will be sent out. I think, Sarah, it will be added in the chat.
It sure will. Yep, we will absolutely put that in the chat.
Perfect. So if your team is in the planning phase, the learning phase, or just needs extra support from our Fast Track team, please fill that out and we will contact you shortly.
Thanks so much, Morgan.
Yes,
love
absolutely.
it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, we are going to transition now into some Q&A. And before we do that, I just want to say, Rito, thank you so much for that demo. I know that the demo gods threw you for a bit of a loop today, so thank you. And I know that's really hard to be put on the spot like that. You did an outstanding job, so thank you. I also just want to say that authorized user feature that is relatively new is so cool. I hope people realize that's a new feature, and that's a really cool thing that we can do now. So I was very happy to see that one. We are going to get into some Q&A here, and because of that, I'm going to stop the recording just because of privacy reasons. So let me just take a second to stop the recording.